This happened a few months ago. I had just moved back to my small hometown after years in the city. I thought it would be a good place for a fresh start. I wanted peace after everything I'd gone through. But being back felt strange. On my first day, I went to the local cafe on Main Street. It was the heart of the town. I ordered a coffee and sat down, trying to remember how things used to be. It was quiet at first, but then I overheard two women at the next table. They giggled, whispering about me. I caught words like failure and mistakes. My stomach twisted. I wished I had never listened. In the days that followed, the feeling of being watched grew. I noticed people staring at me. I felt eyes on me everywhere. At the grocery store, in the park, even online, it felt like they were judging me. People would stop talking when I walked by. I tried to smile at them, but they looked away quickly. It made me uncomfortable. Sometimes I'd find strange notes in my mailbox, vague messages that felt personal, but I couldn't understand them. It felt like they were waiting for me to mess up again. They were waiting for me to fail. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, but deep down, I felt it was real. I just couldn't face their judgment. Each time I stepped outside, I felt more trapped. I stopped going to the cafe. I avoided my favorite spots. The dread loomed over me. What if I ran into someone? What would they say this time? My mornings were filled with unease. I bought groceries late at night, afraid of what I might hear. I felt like a ghost, invisible yet painfully exposed. The whispers grew louder in my mind, and I felt isolated. I thought about disappearing. Could that be better than facing them? One evening I stood by my window looking out at the street. I caught a glimpse of someone watching me from across the road. They smiled. I wasn't sure. It felt wrong. My heart raced. The sun dipped behind the trees and I felt trapped by their judgment. Something inside me shifted. I was tired of the whispers, tired of feeling like a prisoner in my own life. I leaned against the wall, the air thick around me. Maybe I should just disappear, I whispered. But could I really? Before I could answer, I heard a knock at my door. I turned, my heart pounding. No one was there. I opened the door cautiously. The hallway was empty. I stepped outside, looking around. A chill ran down my spine. I felt trapped again, like there were eyes everywhere. As I stood there, I realized I was no longer just worried about what people thought. I was afraid, not just of them, but of what I might do next. The silence of the hallway felt heavy. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. I closed the door slowly and took a deep breath. Something told me I was being watched, and I wasn't ready to confront it. The next few days dragged on, each one feeling heavier than the last. I stayed holed up in my apartment, avoiding the outside world. I felt like a prisoner of my own fears. The silence in my room was deafening. Then one afternoon I found myself scrolling through social media. I stumbled upon a local group that shared updates about the town. I hadn't looked at it before. Out of curiosity, I clicked on a post that caught my eye. It was about an upcoming town meeting. The topic? Community unity, moving forward together. A knot tightened in my stomach. I read through the comments. Many of them seemed supportive, but others were laced with sarcasm and judgment. Someone even mentioned me. They referred to me in a way that made me feel exposed, like I was a topic of gossip. The fear returned, clawing its way back into my mind. I shut my laptop and rubbed my temples. What was I doing? I knew that attending the meeting would only invite more scrutiny, but a small voice in my head urged me to confront my fears. Maybe this was my chance to reclaim my life. Taking a deep breath, I decided that I would just go. I needed to see if it was as bad as I thought. I dressed quickly, opting for something simple and unassuming. I didn't want to draw attention. As I stepped outside, my heart raced. The air felt thick with anticipation. Each step down the street was a battle against my rising anxiety. Were they watching me? I quickened my pace, trying to brush it off, but the unease clung to me. When I arrived at the community center, a crowd had already gathered. I stood outside for a moment, watching people I recognized but hadn't spoken to in years. My hands grew clammy. I contemplated turning back, but then I reminded myself why I was there. As I moved through the crowd, I felt the familiar stares. Some people whispered to each other, glancing in my direction. I wanted to disappear, but I pressed on, determined. Inside, the room was buzzing. A podium awaited, standing at the front just below the bright lights. I tried to find a seat in the back, but a voice called out, "Look, it's her." The room turned, and I felt all eyes on me. I could feel my face flush. I couldn't handle this. The walls seemed to close in and my throat tightened. I thought about leaving right then. But something held me there. Maybe, just maybe, I could voice my side. Maybe this could change everything. Then I noticed a figure in the corner of the room. It was the person who had smiled at me from across the street. They stood alone, watching me intently. A chill ran through me. Something about their gaze felt wrong. I stumbled backwards slightly, panic rising. I could hardly process the crowd around me now. That's when I spotted something lying on the floor beneath their feet. It was a note, folded, its edges frayed as if it had been there for a while. My heart raced as I bent down to pick it up. The crowd had quieted. Everyone seemed to be watching me. I unfolded the note, and my breath caught in my throat. The words written on it made my blood run cold. "Don't think you can hide forever." I looked up to find the figure gone, vanished into the crowd. My heart pounded. I was now more afraid than ever. I stumbled back from the note as if it burned my fingers. My thoughts raced, and I felt a surge of panic clawing at my chest. The chatter in the room faded into a distant hum, and all I could hear was the rush of my own heartbeat. I searched the room desperately for that figure, but they had truly vanished. I needed to get out, now. The whispers had returned, sharp and probing. I felt their eyes on me, full of judgment as I hurried toward the exit. The world outside felt like a safety net compared to the suffocating air inside the community center. As I burst through the doors, I leaned against the cool metal railing outside, gasping for breath. The sunlight hit my face, but it felt harsh. I wanted to run home to lock my door and throw away the key, yet a part of me, maybe the stubborn part, knew I couldn't let that note win. Back on the street, I noticed something strange. A tall figure stood across the road, leaning against a street lamp. My heart stopped as I squinted against the sun. It was them. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. The figure's gaze fixed on me, and I couldn't shake the feeling it was deliberate, almost predatory. I turned away and walked quickly, my legs propelling me forward without thinking. I scanned my surroundings, half expecting someone to confront me. This small town felt full of secrets and eyes that tracked my every move. I didn't want to be the center of attention. Not now. Not ever. Suddenly my phone buzzed in my pocket, making me jump. I fished it out and saw a notification from the online group. I hesitated, my heart racing. What if it was about me again? I opened the app, and the latest post made my blood run cold. "Is anyone else concerned about the strange woman in town?" it read. A photo accompanied it, fuzzy but recognizable. It was a picture of me, taken from the direction of the community center. How had someone gotten that? I felt sick. There was a commentary thread below it, filled with speculation, and I wished I could unsee it all. The same names popped up, the same judgment. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned down a side street, needing an escape. Moments later, I heard footsteps behind me. I paused, my heart racing again. My mind raced with scenarios. Was it the figure? Was it someone else from the meeting? I didn't want to look back, but I could feel the pressure of whoever was there. Then I heard a voice, low and calm, but laced with an unsettling undertone. "You're not alone, you know." I froze, my stomach twisting. It was the figure again. I turned slowly, eyes wide. They stepped closer, barely lit by the shadow of the building, but impossibly present. Their expression was unreadable, an unsettling mix of sympathy and something else that sent chills down my spine. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out, every muscle in my body tensing. They smiled, a tight-lipped grin that made my skin prickle. "I've been looking for you. We have a lot to talk about." With that, I felt a wave of dread wash over me. Questions flooded my mind. What did they want to talk about? My legs ached with the urge to run, but I stayed rooted to the spot, trapped in a conversation I hadn't asked for. The air was thick with tension, and an overwhelming sense of unease settled in. Suddenly I realized I might not have to hide anymore, but confronting this would come at a price. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their presence like a heavy cloak. The figure stepped closer, their features becoming clearer in the light. Their eyes glinted with something I couldn't quite place. Predatory curiosity, perhaps. I wanted to bolt, but my feet felt glued to the ground. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. They tilted their head, a gesture that felt oddly childlike yet unsettling. "It's not what I want, it's what you need," they replied, their words slow and deliberate. I couldn't tell whether they meant to reassure me or unsettle me further. I took a step back, but they moved in sync, closing the gap. "Listen, you're being watched," they said softly, glancing over their shoulder as if we were in a darkened alley instead of a bright street. "They can smell your fear." My stomach twisted. Who were they talking about? Was it the online group? My anxiety spiked as I recalled the post featuring my face. "You think I'm afraid?" I shot back, a brittle edge in my voice. "You don't know anything about me." Their half-smile deepened. "That's exactly it. I want to help you understand." I shook my head, feeling lightheaded. "Help? By stalking me?" I gestured to the space between us, searching for clarity. "Why me?" "Because you're special," they answered, their voice smooth yet laced with something darker, "and they see it too." I thought of the notes, the whispers, the picture. "Stop," I said, my voice rising. "You don't know me. I don't want any part of this." Their expression turned serious. "But you're already in it. You've caught their attention. That can be dangerous." My breath quickened, a gnawing dread filling me. "What do you mean?" Before they could respond, I heard footsteps again, louder this time. Panic surged as I scanned my surroundings. A group of people was approaching, their laughter slicing through the tension. I recognized them from the community center. They were part of the online discussions, part of the scrutiny. "Let's go," the figure urged, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. "Now." I didn't know who this person was, but I sensed an urgency in their voice. Against all instinct, I let them lead me down the alley, away from the prying eyes. I felt a mixture of fear and defiance. As we turned a corner, I noticed a narrow door just ahead, slightly ajar. The figure paused, glancing back at the street, then motioned toward the door. "We can talk in there." I hesitated. My instincts screamed at me to run back into the street, back toward the light and familiarity. But the figure's expression was fierce now, determined. They knew something I didn't, and I felt pulled in by an unseen force. "Are you coming or not?" They pressed, and I swallowed the knot in my throat. That's when I saw it. Just behind them, a shadow flitting across the bricks, unmistakably human. My heart raced. Someone was watching us. Suddenly the door creaked in the wind, swinging open. What lay inside? I didn't know, but the presence behind me urged me to find out. With one last glance back, I stepped into the dark and let the door close behind me. The door clicked shut, plunging us into dimness. I blinked, trying to adjust to the absence of light. The air felt thick and stale, almost suffocating. I could barely make out the shape of my companion, but their outline loomed menacingly. "Where are we?" I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. "In a safe place," they replied, their tone less frantic now but still urgent. They took a step closer, and I instinctively retreated. "Listen, you need to understand, this isn't just about you. There are bigger things at play. What could possibly be bigger than someone stalking me?" My heartbeat echoed in my ears. My thoughts raced back to the posts and the pictures. "And why do you care?" "Because they know you're vulnerable." They paused, lowering their voice even further. "You've caught the attention of people who thrive on fear. They believe you're hiding something." My stomach twisted again, a pit of anxiety forming. "I'm not hiding anything," I said defensively. "Just leave me alone." "Unfortunately, it's not that simple." They stepped into the faint light coming from a small window above, and I could see their face more clearly now. They were younger than I expected, maybe in their 20s, with intense eyes that seemed to flicker with a mix of concern and something darker. "They won't stop until they get what they want. And if you fight back..." Their voice trailed off, leaving the threat hanging between us. I needed to think. Get what they want? How do you even know about all this? "I'm part of the same community. I've been following the discussions," they said, crossing their arms. "But they sense your fear, and that makes you a target. You're different, and they can smell it." I took a shaky breath. "Different how?" Their expression softened, almost as if they were gearing up to share a secret. "I can't explain everything now, but you need to trust me. They will come after you. It's only a matter of time." A shudder ran through me. "You're scaring me." "Good." Their voice was low and firm. "You need to be scared. It might save your life." I shifted uneasily, the weight of their words sinking in. Just when I thought I could breathe again, I heard something, a faint scratching noise like nails on wood. I froze, my heart plummeting. "What was that?" I whispered, glancing toward the door. "Stay quiet," they hissed, eyes darting toward the sound. They might already be here. A chill wrapped around me. I wanted to yell, to make a break for it, but something told me I had to stay. Before I could gather my thoughts, shadows moved beyond the door, backlit by the streetlight outside. I strained to listen, fear clawing at my throat. Suddenly the door rattled, the knob twisting as if someone was trying to force it open. My pulse quickened, and my instincts screamed at me to run. But where? "Get ready," the figure said, positioning themselves in front of me. "If they get in, we'll have to fight." I couldn't process what was happening. My world had spiraled into chaos in a matter of minutes. This was beyond any fear I'd ever known. Then the door burst open, and everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness swallowed me whole. Panic surged through my veins. I stumbled backward, colliding with something solid, a wall perhaps. My heart raced. Had they come for me? I strained to hear anything over the blood rushing in my ears. The shadows lingered in the doorway, but the figure that had been with me stood firm, almost a silhouette against the faint glimmer of streetlight from outside. "Stay low," they whispered urgently. But then I heard it. A voice, low and menacing. "We know you're in here. There's no escape." A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't tell what they looked like, but the threat dripped off every word. My eyes widened, searching for an exit in the dark. "Who are they?" I whispered to my companion, my voice trembling. "They're the ones pulling the strings," they replied, barely concealing their anger. "They won't stop until they find you." There was a shift outside. Footsteps, deliberate and cautious, moved around the room. My breath quickened. A knot formed in my stomach. I had to find a way out. The figure beside me edged closer. "Listen, we need to get out and find help." I nodded, desperate and frightened. "How? There's no way out." "There's always a way," they said, their voice steady despite the chaos outside. "We have to wait for the right moment." The voice outside continued taunting us, like a predator playing with its prey. "You think you can hide from us? Just give up already. It will end better for you." I clutched my companion's arm, grounding myself. "What do they want?" "They want you to feel powerless. They want you to be afraid." The shadows shifted closer. My instincts screamed for action. "Then let's show them we're not afraid." With a burst of energy, I moved toward the door, adrenaline fueling my steps. The dim light silhouetted the figure outside, broad-shouldered and looming. "Now!" my companion yelled. We lunged together, pushing through the door. I collided with something cold and hard, an object, maybe a table. I fell, but not alone. My companion was beside me, scrambling to get up. The room we emerged into was a small, cramped storage space, piled high with boxes. The taunting voice echoed behind us, now replaced with the sound of shuffling and panicking footsteps. I could feel my companion beside me, their breathing heavy. "This way," they shouted, pulling me toward an outlet at the back, a dimly lit escape. As we dashed around corners, the oppressive darkness swallowed every sound, but the footsteps grew closer. I glanced back, the faint glimmers of shadow stretching toward us. "Keep moving," my companion urged, and I pushed myself harder. Just as we reached the edge of the room, a hand shot out, catching my wrist. I gasped, the grip like iron, so strong it sent shockwaves of fear through me. "Got you," the voice hissed, and I turned, eyes wide with panic, and that's when I noticed something, a glint of metal in their hand. I could feel my heart drop. Where there was a way out, there was also a new threat waiting for us. I yanked my wrist free, adrenaline surging through me as I twisted away from the shadowy figure. I barely registered the sharp pain as I collided with a box, sending it tumbling to the ground. The clang resonated in the cramped storage space, louder than I expected. "Go. Now." My companion's voice cut through the chaos, and I sprang into action, darting to the back of the room. I could hear the figure behind me, their heavy breathing mingling with the sound of my racing heart. As we reached a narrow opening between two stacks of boxes, I caught a glimpse of the figure, a hulking silhouette, a dagger glinting in their hand. Panic surged again, but I pushed it down, focusing on the escape ahead. My companion was already through, pulling me along by my arm. We emerged into a dimly lit hallway, the air thick with the scent of dust and mildew. I took a moment to gather myself, breathing in deep. "Where now?" I whispered, glancing back toward the storage room, half expecting the figure to barrel through at any moment. "Up," my companion urged. They pointed toward a staircase snaking up the wall. Without a second thought, I sprinted toward it, my feet flying up the steps as I could hear muffled voices behind us, gaining momentum. "Wait," I hissed, my thoughts racing. "What if they're waiting upstairs?" "We don't have time to think," my companion shot back. "We need to move before they figure out where we are." I nodded, even though uncertainty twisted in my gut. We reached the top of the stairs and entered a long corridor lined with closed doors. My mind whirled. Which door led to safety? I pressed against the wall, trying to hear any hint of our pursuers. Whispers echoed from one end. "Split up," I suggested. "We can cover more ground." "Are you crazy? They'll just catch us one by one." "Then what do? We can't just stay here," I said, panic creeping back in. Before my companion could argue, the door at the far end swung open and a woman stepped out, her eyes wide with surprise. "What's going on? Who are you?" I hesitated, looking at my companion. "We're out," Someone shouted from downstairs, then a thud echoed as something heavy hit the floor. "Listen," the woman said, her voice trembling. "You need to hide. They're not far behind." "Please," I begged, desperate for a solution. "We can't get caught." She hesitated for a heartbeat, then stepped aside. "In here." She motioned to her room, the dark space looking safe but claustrophobic. As we slipped inside, I caught a glimpse of the hallway. Shadows danced as figures raced down, their voices growing louder. Before I could fully step through, a hand shot out from the hallway and grabbed my shoulder, yanking me back. I spun around, my heart thumping wildly, ready to fight or flee. "Too late," the voice growled, and my breath caught in my throat. Then I swallowed hard. Someone was in the house, and they had found us. I felt the grip tighten on my shoulder, cold and unyielding. My body tensed as I twisted, ready to fight, but all I could see was the dark figure blocking my path. The stench of sweat and something worse filled the air, suffocating me. "Let go," I shouted, my voice sharper than I intended. Adrenaline surged as I kicked back, planting my foot against the figure's shin. They stumbled, but I didn't wait to see if it was enough. I darted into the room, pulling my companion inside and slamming the door shut behind us. "Did you have to do that?" My companion hissed, eyes wide. I shook my head, breathless. It was either that or... I didn't finish the thought. The noise from the hallway swelled as our pursuer regained composure. A heavy thud rang against the door, rattling the frame. "Quick, behind the bed," the woman urged, already shoving boxes aside to clear a space. I hesitated, unsure. What if they find us? If they do, we're done for. Hide. She pushed me toward the bed, urgency in her voice. I glanced at my companion, who nodded, and we scrambled behind it, pulling a dusty old quilt over our heads. It felt cramped and stifling, the space barely keeping us hidden. I could hear the door creak as the figure shoved it open with a force that sent chills down my spine. The floorboards creaked with each step, heavy and deliberate. "Where are you?" the voice growled, low and menacing. I held my breath, praying for silence. The figure prowled the room, peering into corners. I could hear them mumbling something about us being here. My heart raced louder as I fought the urge to move or make a sound. "Search everywhere, they can't have gone far." Another voice echoed faintly. Two of them now. My mind raced. Why were they looking for us? What did they want? I couldn't help but replay the night in my head, the moments that led us to this horrifying situation. A crash came from a nearby shelf, and I flinched. The figure was tearing the place apart. I barely registered the woman beside me, her expression a blend of fear and resolve. "Listen," she whispered urgently. "I know a way out, but you have to trust me." The door suddenly slammed shut, and the noise of shuffling paused. "They're in here." A scream came from the other voice. "Go!" I whispered back, adrenaline flooding my veins again. "I'll hold them off." "Are you insane?" My companion shot back. "Just go. I'll find you." Before they could argue, I pushed my way out from behind the bed and rushed to the door, ready to face whatever waited outside. I flung the door open, fear and anger flashing through me. "Come and get me!" Chaos erupted. I dashed to the left, the night air fresh against my face as I bolted down the stairs. Footsteps thundered behind me, and I could feel the tension build, leaving no room for retreat. That's when I saw it, a glint of metal under the moonlight, and my heart sank. I recognized the weapon they carried. It was the same one I'd seen before. The realization hit like a punch. They were after more than just me. They were hunting something, or someone. And I was right in their path, trapped between two worlds. I ran without looking back, the cold night air rushing past me. The sound of my pursuers grew louder, the footsteps pounding like drums behind me. I veered around a corner, adrenaline pushing me forward. My mind raced with possibilities of escape. Where was my companion? I couldn't dwell on that. I had to focus on getting away. The alley opened up ahead, and I dove into it, hoping it would provide some cover. The shadows enveloped me, and for a moment I was hidden. I pressed my back against the brick wall, breathless, waiting for the footsteps to fade. They didn't. Instead, I heard them get closer. "Split up!" one of them barked. It sent a jolt of panic through me. They'd look for me in pairs now, covering more ground. Suddenly, I heard a loud crash from the other end of the alley. I peered around the edge of the wall, catching sight of an abandoned warehouse. It looked menacing, but it felt like my only option. Ignoring the foreboding aura, I sprinted toward it. The door was heavy and creaked as I pushed it open. Darkness swallowed me whole as I stepped inside. I fumbled for a switch, but when the lights flickered on, I saw it was a graveyard of broken machinery and old crates. My heart sank. This might not be a safe place to hide. Before I could decide my next move, I heard the rattle of footsteps outside. Panic surged again. I ducked behind a large piece of equipment and held my breath, blood racing in my ears. Footsteps entered the building, and my heart sank as I caught snippets of their conversation. "Check the inside first. They won't have gone far." I shut my eyes, praying they wouldn't spot me. The darkness felt thick around me, almost like it was swallowing my fear. But I knew they were getting close. I could hear their voices grow louder. I needed to think fast. If they found me here, there would be no escape. That's when I spotted a loose panel in the back of the room. If I could squeeze through, I might be able to find another way out. I took a deep breath, adrenaline propelling me. I climbed carefully over the metal and slipped behind the panel, crouching low. Again, the footfalls drew nearer. I could barely hear what they were saying now, just the urgency in their tone. Then I saw something shining just beyond the panel, an old fire escape. My heart leapt. If I could just get to the window, I might be able to slip out before they found me. I pushed the panel slightly enough to peek outside. I froze. One of the pursuers stood just outside the door, scanning the area. My breath caught. I had to move, but moving meant taking a risk. With a quick glance at the fire escape, I clenched my teeth and went for it. I pushed through the panel and darted toward the window. Just as I reached it, I heard a shout. "Over here!" Everything in my body screamed to run faster. I yanked the window open and scrambled onto the fire escape, praying I could make it down before they caught up. But as I clambered down, the weight of my desperation set in. I knew it wasn't just a chase. My life depended on staying one step ahead. Then I heard the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. My heart dropped. They weren't playing around anymore. I froze on the fire escape, the chill of fear prickling my skin as the cold metal of the railing dug into my palms. I could hear the voice again, echoing in my head, a voice filled with malice and certainty. "We know you're up there. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." My breath quickened. How had they gotten so close? My heart raced as I glanced down, contemplating jumping but knowing the ground was unforgiving. Just then I saw a flicker of movement below, a figure darting in the shadows. My thoughts swirled as I focused on a shadowy shape slinking closer, edging toward the base of the building. "Stay down," I whispered, barely audible to myself. I needed to decide. Trusting anyone but myself felt like a gamble. The noise from the pursuers grew louder, an angry quartet blending threats with the sound of gunmetal. Suddenly the door to the warehouse burst open, and a figure came rushing out, swiftly moving toward my position. They stopped abruptly, turning their face toward the sky where I crouched. "Hey, up here!" My heart stopped for a second as I recognized that voice. It was my companion from earlier. "Get down here," they urged, waving me toward safety. The urgency in their expression pulled me back to reality, and against my better judgment, I made my choice. I had little time. I rushed down the remaining steps of the fire escape, the metal rungs vibrating beneath my weight. I tucked into the shadows as my feet hit the ground, breathless and nervous. "What are you doing here?" I hissed as I reached them. "Trying to help," they replied, glancing nervously at the door behind us. "They won't be long. We need to move. Follow me." Without another moment for contemplation, I took their hand, and we slipped into the darkness of an adjacent alley, the air thick with tension. My mind raced as I followed, trying to comprehend everything that had unfolded, a whirlwind of fear, whispers and threats that had taunted me for too long. We turned left, then right, winding through a maze of shadows, finally landing in the overgrown courtyard of an old district I barely remembered. My companion brought us to the side of a crumbling wall, hunched over to catch their breath. "They have eyes everywhere. We need to find somewhere safe." The streets felt bewitched, every corner holding secrets. I strained to hear any telltale sounds, lurking in the shadows like a hunted animal. There was a strange tension coiling in my stomach, an instinct that whispered danger, but also a truth I could feel in the air. Their watchful, predatory gaze had not entirely left us. "What do they want?" I finally managed to ask, the clamor in my head quieting. "They believe you hold something they need," my companion said, urgency creeping back into their tone. "Something powerful. You may not even know what it is, but they'll stop at nothing to find it." "Something powerful," I echoed, skepticism lacing my voice. What kind of power could I possibly have? My companion searched my face for understanding. "It's not always visible. Sometimes it's in how we see the world, how we confront our fears. You've brought something out of the shadows, and now they want to feed off it." Panic surged again. Feed off what? But before they could answer, we heard the familiar sound of footsteps, echoed whispers flowing through the alleys around us. My heart sank, and I caught a glimpse of paralyzing dread on my companion's face. We need to move. Now, with no destination in mind, we ran. Every footfall felt like an echo, inviting unseen threats to pursue us. Each shadow loomed closer as I grappled with the possibility that escape might never come, and the chase continued to gnaw at my heels. We darted into an old warehouse, crumbling but covered in a shroud of darkness. "There," my companion pointed to a hidden door at the back. My breath came quickly as I dashed toward it, feeling like prey in a predator's eye. As we stumbled inside, I turned just in time to see dark figures flooding into the entrance behind us. "Hurry!" I yelled, slamming the door just as it bounced against the frame. I fumbled for a lock as dread settled in my gut. The figures outside pressed against the door, voices dripping with impatience. "We know you're in there," one shouted. "This can end peacefully. Just come out." The voice dripped with deceit, and every instinct screamed at me not to trust them. "What do we do?" I panted, glancing at my companion. "Find a way out," they replied urgently, determined to search the room. The warehouse was littered with old crates and debris, providing a disorienting maze within. My eyes darted around as I pulled at the shadows, searching for an escape. Sweet freedom felt out of reach. Just then, the shadows at the door began to push in further. I could hear the ominous creaking of wood, pressure building as they threatened to break through. I turned towards the back wall, desperately scanning for a window or another door. My heart sank when I saw it. The murky glass of a window high up, practically impossible to reach. "There," I shouted, pointing. "If we can get up there." "Help me," my companion called, and we piled crates beneath the window, desperation driving our bodies. The voices behind us grew louder, insistently urging us to surrender. We climbed, our hearts racing with each pushing second. My hands scraped against the rough wood as my companion hoisted themselves up. "Almost there." With a final shove, I reached for any hold and felt the smooth, cold glass beneath my fingertips. I pulled myself against it and began to seat myself on the edge. when a loud crash ricocheted from the doorway. I glanced back just in time to see the door splinter apart as figures spilled inside, eyes hungry with menace. "Get out!" I yelled, panic tightening my throat. My companion shoved me through first, and I barely caught my footing on the ledge before I turned back. They were still climbing up, too slow, I realized with dread. "Come on," I cried, desperation clawing at me. As they made the final leap, they let out a horrified gasp, a figure's hand reaching just inches away from grabbing them. With a powerful yank, I pulled them up, barely avoiding the grasp of the pursuer before we tumbled down the other side. Suddenly, freedom. We landed on a patch of overgrown grass, the warehouse looming behind us as chaos erupted inside. We sprinted away, not looking back, hearts pounding, breaths ragged. As we pushed deeper into the night, it felt like we had escaped. But the shadows loomed heavy. Whispers were still at the edges of the night. We were free for now, but that sense of unease never left me. I glanced sideways at my companion, unsure of what fate awaited us. "We have to keep moving," I said finally, letting the reality sink in. What if they find us again? I could see the worry etched on their face. They will, but now we know we're not alone. There's more to this story than we understand. And how it ends? We'll need to find out. And as we ventured further into the uncertain night, the questions hung in the air unasked. What had we stumbled into? What were they truly after? And why was I the one at the center of it all? I had no answers yet, but somehow it felt just like the beginning.